Alrighty, my friends, welcome. What I want to talk about today is how once you've decided what you're going to work on in science, whether it's something that your science teacher assigned, whether it's a skill that you found that is about the same things that you're learning in your science class, or if it's just a skill that you are interested in, once you found that skill, I'm going to show you some resources you can use to be successful. So look at this question with me. It says that this diagram is a model of Earth's features at a plate boundary. Use the words below to label the features. Oceanic crust, deep sea trench, volcanic island arc. Okay. On the Atlas test, typically you're going to have something to read that you then comprehend to answer questions. In IXL and in your courses, you're learning different facts, different scientific facts that you can do something with. And a lot of times you learn those facts through your reading comprehension skills. IXL primarily focused on, do you know the facts that go with science for your grade level? So you can still see that there's not a passage here on this question. Some of them do have them, but there's not a question or a passage here for this question. So we need to know what oceanic crust is. We need to know what a deep sea trench is. We need to know what a volcanic island arc is in order to be successful. If this was a skill that goes along with what's going on in your courses, you will have notes to help you. You will have live sessions, you'll have that support. If it goes along with what's going on in class, check your notes. However, if you've picked a skill that is something that you were just interested in, that you haven't covered so far this year, or maybe it's a skill that's there that, really you were just interested in, you might not have that information. So that's what I'm going to show you now, how we can use our tools, specifically Google, to learn. But before we do that, I do want to just point out, if you look at the bottom, if there is something that says lesson down here, this one is a different related skill practice. So it has different questions. This one's about the Earth's layers. So there's a related skill practice down here. But if you have one that says lesson on it, click on that and start there. That's a really great place to go. We don't have that. Most IXL skill practices for science are not going to have that. But if you do see it, grab it. So this is what we're going to do instead. Now, first of all, I know you see Google. I know you see me with a question. It would be inappropriate to type the question in and ask Google to tell me what the answer is, because then I'm using Google's brain and not my own. However, it is 100% encouraged and fine and wonderful for you to go to Google and for you to type in, what is oceanic crust? You have this little AI overview, which is sometimes fine. Be careful with these AI overviews though, because all AI does is it pulls in a bunch of keywords basically and puts information together, and a lot of times it's really great, but sometimes it can be wrong. So if you don't know what oceanic crust is, we can't trust that the AI overview is going to tell us the correct thing, because we can't fact check it. And this AI overview makes mistakes all the time. So don't use this, is what I'm saying. If this is not something you know about yet, you don't have background knowledge, scroll past that AI overview. Wikipedia is a really great place to look. Wikipedia is usually written pretty well for you, but it's also open, like an open source kind of thing where anybody can write anything. So just like when you're talking about citing resources for a English paper, for example, if you had to cite some resources to support your opinion or support whatever your claim was, usually those .orgs like this, usually those .orgs and .edus are the best. But since we aren't necessarily trying to cite information, we're trying to learn something, Wikipedia is usually pretty good for that. And it's usually really great how it's formatted. It gives you information. It's usually not super long. See, there's some reading here to do, but it's not super long, and you can use your screen readers pretty well if you want that text to speech. There are other things here you can click on. There's other options, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with Wikipedia for now, and I'm going to read this first little bit. It says, oceanic crust is the uppermost layer of the oceanic portion of the tectonic plate. So you can see that I've got water everywhere here. I have water everywhere. So all of this is underwater. So I have this layer, I have the water, and it's pointing at something right here, and then I've got this. Oceanic crust is the uppermost layer of the oceanic portion of the tectonic plate. These are my tectonic plates. You can see that this one goes to here before it gets cut off by this one, so they're kind of mashing into each other. But this is the upper layer of this tectonic plate, so this is my oceanic crust. All right, well now let's go figure out what is a deep sea trench. Well, a deep sea trench, again, AI overview, we're skipping over it. We're going to go oceanic trench, keeping going. I want something that matches the word I'm looking for because I don't want to accidentally think two things are the same and them not be. But here's a deep sea trench. A deep sea trench is any long, narrow, steep-sided depression in the ocean bottom in which occur the maximum oceanic depths. Long, narrow, steep-sided depression. But look here, we've got a long, narrow, pretty steep-sided, and a depression like cutting into the Earth's crust. So this is my deep sea trench. And then that leaves me with volcanic island arcs. I'm going to guess that's what this is, but I don't know. So I'm going to come back over here to Google and I'm going to put in volcanic island arc. Well, a volcanic island arc, again, the AI overview is great, but we're going to scroll down and find something better. A volcanic arc, also known as a magmatic arc, that's a fun word, is a belt of volcanoes formed above a subducting oceanic tectonic plate. Lots of words there, but I'm looking for a volcano. Here's a volcano. It's pointing, look, here's one, little one, medium-sized one, there's another one. We got a little row of volcanoes here. Look, even the magma's showing coming up out of the Earth's crust to get to that volcano. So volcanic arc is right here. I would put all of this information in my notes. I would take a screenshot of this and put it in my notes, but we were successful. So that's how you can use Google as a learning tool to help you be successful over on your IXL skill practices. And looky what we also just found. On the volcanic arc, look how lovely this is. This helps me so much because I just noticed this because I read this before I even looked at the diagram. But look how that matched. Here's my trench. Here's a trench right here, and it looks the same as my diagram. Here's the volcanic arc showing you the volcanoes. That matched my diagram. And then does it have our oceanic crust? So this would also be a really great diagram to throw into your notes. And in fact, look here at this one. Let's look at this other question. It looks like a rift valley. Do we have rift valley here? Nope, nothing about a rift valley. Do we have anything about oceanic crust? Well, we already talked about how that was that uppermost layer. So we've learned that, and now we can answer this, but we don't know what the Rift Valley or the mid-ocean ridge is. So I'm not going to keep going because I don't want this video to be much longer, but my next step would be to go Google what is a Rift Valley, what is a mid-ocean ridge, figure that out, and then answer them. I just want to recap one more time. If you are picking skills that go along with what's going and being taught in your courses, you will already have this information to answer these questions. If you need to Google something to add to your notes, if it's something that you don't have in your notes and you don't know the answer, add that to your notes for your classes. But if it's something that you're just interested in that you've never covered in class, you are probably going to have to spend a little extra time by looking up that information to be able to be successful. Alrighty, friends, have a great day.